Queen Victoria's funeral secret and her last wish. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel if you are new and leave a like on the video. Now let's start. In a world where mourning was almost an art, where every flower had a meaning and silence weighed more than 1,000 words, one woman decided to plan her final farewell with regal meticulousness. She was loved and feared, but above all, she meticulously prepared for her death. The secret instructions, the unusual objects, the ending, a mystery revealed only years later. The beginning of the end. It was a cold December night in 1861. Windsor Castle, the traditional residence of the British monarchy, was immersed in an unusual silence. In his private apartments, Prince Albert, consort of Queen Victoria, was fighting his last battle against typhoid fever. At 42, the vigorous and active prince could not resist. His heart stopped, and with it, a part of the Queen. Victoria, then only 42 years old, was overcome by a devastating grief that turned into a mourning that lasted for the rest of her life. Albert's death was not only the loss of a husband, but the breaking of the Queen's most intimate connection with the world. Pale-faced and with a dull expression, he ordered his entire wardrobe to be replaced by black clothes, and so it remained until his death, 40 years later. In that perpetual mourning, Victoria silently began to write the script of her farewell. Like a playwright of the afterlife, she planned every detail with an almost obsessive precision. She called a trusted man, the Scottish doctor James Reed. He was not only the guardian of her health, but also the executor of her last wishes. For 15 years, Reed remained at the sovereign's side, and in the final months of her life, he became the confidant of her most intimate secrets. 12 handwritten pages, detailed, meticulous, sealed and kept in the strictest secrecy. A funeral plan worthy of an empress of death. And this was only the beginning. The most mysterious coffin in the empire. On January 22, 1901, Queen Victoria died at Osborne House, a royal residence on the Isle of Wight, surrounded by silent gardens and the sound of the distant sea. After 63 years of reign, the era that bore her name was coming to an end. But it wasn't the end, at least not for Dr. Reed. It was time to open the sealed envelope containing the dying wishes of the woman who had ruled an empire on which the sun never set. The contents of the instructions were surprising. The funeral was to be white, a color highly unusual for the time. She wanted white flowers, white horses, a white veil, a shocking contrast to the dark clothes she had worn for decades. There was no mourning in the procession. Victoria wanted her farewell to evoke purity, renewal, perhaps even a reconciliation with the past. In the coffin, carefully hidden beneath floral arrangements from every corner of the United Kingdom and the Empire, were personal and sentimental relics. A plaster cast of Albert's hand, one of the most intimate and symbolic objects, rested beside her body. With it, the white veil from her wedding in 1840, the same one that started the fashion for the white wedding dress. The Queen wanted to rest as a bride, not a widow. The veil symbolized youth, purity, and an eternal love that surpassed death. Another object was added, a hand-embroidered cloak by his daughter Alice for her father, a painful reminder of a devoted daughter who had also passed away too soon. Thus, among layers of linen, flowers, and secrets, the most mysterious coffin in the British Empire was born. Forbidden loves and silent friends. Inside that richly decorated coffin lay not only the relics of a sovereign, but the hidden memories of a woman full of complex affections. Victoria did not want to be remembered only as a queen. She wanted to be buried as a wife, mother, and, discreetly, lover. Among the more controversial objects placed in the tomb were a lock of hair and a photograph of John Brown, the Scottish servant who many believe to have been his great companion after Albert's death. John Brown was rough, loyal, far from courtly standards. But his bond with the Queen was so strong that rumors of a secret affair spread. Although never officially confirmed, the fact that Victoria wanted to be buried with mementos of him is a powerful sign of her importance. This scandalized the Queen's children, who had never approved of that closeness. And it doesn't end there. Albert's dressing gown was also placed in the coffin, as if Victoria wanted to recreate an embrace that death had denied them. In her cold hands rested the wedding ring, a symbol of eternal fidelity. Around her body, jewels in abundance, which many associated with esoteric practices, reinforcing the idea that the Queen wanted protection even in the afterlife. No audience was admitted to the farewell. No grand ceremony, despite being the most powerful woman of the 19th century. Only Turi, her Pomeranian, had the privilege of being by her side in her last moments. And so, amid jewels, secrets, and the labored breathing of a dog, the Queen made her final journey. The lost statue and the denied last wish. As detailed as Queen Victoria's farewell plan was, not everything went as she wished. Among the requests was one with a profound symbolic and emotional value: that her life-size statue be placed next to Albert's in the Frogmore Mausoleum, where her beloved's remains rest. The two statues had been commissioned after the prince's death, still in the 19th century. Albert's was immediately installed, but Victoria's was set aside at Windsor waiting for the right moment. Only then something unexpected happened. The statue disappeared from the archives, a symbol, perhaps, of the very difficulty of dealing with grief. It was found months after the funeral, and only then placed next to her husband. Thus, even in death, Victoria had to wait, as she had done so many times in life. Nevertheless, all other requests were respected. White flowers covered the coffin. The bridal veil rested on her face, and the objects hidden in the folds of the satin carried with them the soul of the woman behind the crown. Her funeral wasn't just the end of a reign. It was the end of an era, the Victorian era. And ironically, there were no speeches, no pomp, no audience, just silence, and a canine presence. Because deep down, even the greatest queens want to leave with those they truly loved, be they husbands, daughters, or dogs. That's all for today. And what do you think of this story about Queen Victoria? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you next time. Bye.